bit about diversity in publishing because this is an obsession of mine, and so I want to see more diverse books, and I know
Yeah.
you do as well. So, what have you seen publishers doing to increase the diverse offerings, and what are you and the Root Literary Agency doing to increase diverse offerings?
I mean, I think that you can't improve what you're not tracking, what you're not paying attention to. So we're certainly paying attention to, how our lists look, what kinds of backgrounds our authors are coming from, what kind of representation they have. And then I think also within the industry overall, there is a greater awareness that, like, for a long time, the sort of prototypical publishing person went to one of 5 schools and looks a certain way. And I think if you look at the ranks of young up and coming editors, you can really see that that's shifting. I think we need that to happen across the whole business, though, because it's not enough to have editors and agents talking about it. We also need diverse sales forces. We need diverse marketing teams. We need all, it has to, the industry needs to look like our readership and our customer base, and we're not there yet, but people do seem to be paying attention. I mean, I think retention then becomes a big issue for those young people, that they're supported and that they feel like there's a path forward, and that they feel like there are jobs waiting for them that hold appeal. It's the industry, at least in-house, is largely still based in New York, and there is a lot of stuff, like for us, when we were hiring, we got a lot of submissions from people who were not located in LA, and they were like, I could read Slush from home. And I was like, well, you could, but here is the thing. You couldn't possibly know the weird things that I don't think to say that I want, that Melanie, who's here in our office, picks up because she's right here. And she's like, hey, you remember when we were talking about that thing? Like, well, there's something in the Slush that's kind of like that. But more to the point, like, for that specific job, I need someone who can physically, like, put things in the mail. I need, like, there's some of it that just can't be outsourced because we are still a paper industry. There's got to be a way to open up the geographical restrictions somewhat, but I haven't cracked it yet, and publishers don't seem to have either. And some of that is, like, I am limited by my own experience. My experience was coming up in very, like, at your desk in the office kind of places, and so I'm limited by what I know, and I acknowledge that. So, like, some other agency might totally get how to do that and train people up who are remote, but we're not there yet. But all of that is, like, part of this conversation about attracting and keeping people who are not all, from those same 4 schools in the Northeast, who are all, like, well-meaning white ladies, because well-meaning
who could afford to work an unpaid internship for 2 or 3 years in Manhattan and then move on.
Right. And I mean, I've been in a position to hire or to be involved in the hiring for a long time. Every time I got promoted coming up, I had to replace myself. And I always my priorities were always finding candidates who had, like, worked in a library, worked in a bookstore, being able to do, I did internships, but in college in Arkansas, I could not afford to move to New York and not be paid for, some quantity of time. Publishers are paying interns now, which is great. We don't do unpaid internships. I believe in paying people for their work. It's a thing. So, I think there are strides being made, but we have so much further to go. And it's really hard, like, when we go to send out a manuscript by an author of color, and you look around and you're like, there are no people from the same background in acquiring positions. Cool. And, there are plenty, like, not to say that you would only send a book to someone who shared that exact background. Like, that's not the point of diversifying.
Sure, somewhere there'd be an editor of color screaming, why won't someone send me a book about a white girl and her horse?
I mean, yes. So it's not, it's not that we would only send, but just, it paints a really stark picture of how far we have to go to be a truly inclusive industry. So I mean, it's things like the AAR, of which we are proud members, the Association of Authors Representatives, has paid internships with agencies that are done in the summers in New York. I would love to expand that to LA at some point. We'll get there. So, like, that's something that we've donated toward paying those interns so that it's more feasible for people to take that job. And diversify the agency pipeline. It's something we're paying attention to, both, on a staffing level and then also with our clients.